Support that.
Can you help out again?
I just can't hear, so.
Oh, that was like, there you go.
Yes. Okay.
I'll try that one. I haven't gone there yet.
All right, we're ready when y'all are.
I'll do what I can.
Thank you.
Do you have anybody online? Okay. All right, good morning. Call the meeting of the Public Improvements Restriction Committee to order. Notice meeting is probably posted on April 8th. Item 1 is related to meetings being electronically attended. We're all present, so it is not necessary. Item 2 is discussing possible action to approve the March 30 minutes. Is there a motion?
So,
Second.
I'll second. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. 3, discussion of the possible action regarding Oakland County OSU extension, having a contractor build a storage building next to the greenhouse on Oakland County property. Okay. What's up?
Well, I'll start. I think the meeting before, there was a few questions. They're not going to run any electricity, so that goes away. And we've got it set on county property. The last time we had a map showing exactly where it's setting. And the next piece of the puzzle was to get a amended agreement with OSU. The agreement you do every year. You just do an amended agreement to add this. And I don't know which office this committee does that. I guess you have that here today.
Yeah, it's linked on the agenda item, and it's been approved by the PBA.
with the addendum.
Yeah. If no one has any questions based upon Stacy's report, well, Stacy, are you through? I'll move to receive the report. Okay.
You know, we can barely hear you guys.
Yeah, the microphones aren't working, so if you want to scoot up to hear us, Gretchen, I've got plenty of seats for you.
There's not even a microphone here, so.
Yeah.
Right.
But I sound low, but anyways.
Projection.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm good. I want to thank you guys all for working together and getting all these documents done. So if you guys have questions, I'll be glad to answer it, but I think all the documents was linked that was requested.
So this thing's actually in your, OSU will own this piece, this temporary building.
Correct, and we'll maintain it and all that. We just want permission to put it on county property.
There's not a concrete pad or anything that goes down on it.
No, we're just going to do a wooden subfloor.
Excellent. No, sir. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. And then, basically.
The motion would be to approve the addendum.
Recommended the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that's what you said.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what I heard over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for interpreting.
Yeah. My hearing worked that
All
time.
right.
Yeah. All right.
Pretty good.
Did you vote? Oh,
No, I don't have nothing coming up on mine.
Hit your refresh button.
Okay.
See the refresh. Did you do anything?
It's loading.
If you just wanna let me know, I'll come fix it.
Yeah, I'll second his motion.
Okay.
No, it was already seconded.
Okay.
Yes,
What's
sir.
your vote?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
3-0.
There we go.
Okay, all right. Moving on. Item 4, discussion of possible action to consider court clerk's request for additional work in the new area on the 4th floor. Mr. Monroe. Mr. Bonder. Mr. Bonder. Hi, Chris. I kind of like this one here. Yeah.
Right.
As we discussed last week, I just wanted, before we get any further into this, I just wanted to make it clear, because last week we were stating all the consequences that this extension of this project was gonna bring, to the overall scheduling. So we're not, protesting testing, or we're just giving the evidence and showing the pros and cons. So the PLCC would know exactly what's going on there.
So, Chris, just for, I wasn't here. Can you tell me again what all that was?
Okay,
Because that would be my first question right off the bat, is when? And what project are we gonna drop if we're gonna get this one done quickly? As we still, two commissioners still sitting in a building that is not this one.
it would, the majority of the work is gonna be with our vendors, but the same vendors that we're gonna use is the same vendors that we would use for the sixth floor, and for all the ongoing projects. So there will be a ripple effect. It will affect, the scheduling of the projects that are already scheduled.
And project management, you might speak to that too,
Yes,
procurement of materials.
yes, we will, materials, managing the project, it will just be distracting to everything else we're doing. I mean,
So in the
if I can give
past,
you this,
oh shoot, yeah.
over here. This is what I handed out last week.
Ah, thank you. Another one, another one not here.
Present, last week.
Michael Taylor.
Yeah, Michael Taylor wanted to, went up and looked at the area. I don't know if you had a conversation with him or not, Charles.
No, the week before.
2 weeks. All right, okay. Yeah, no, I was not here.
It was all three alternates last time this came up.
Okay.
It was me, Cody, and Brad.
Yeah, Michael Taylor was gonna go look at it, and then we were just gonna have more discussion this week,
Okay, thank you.
or at this point.
So on this is the former investigators,
Yes,
which if I recall correctly, in the very beginning, was gonna be a very basic
that,
remodel when they moved in.
that is correct.
We have since added a kitchen counter and a sink,
We've added
a
a complete
conference
kitchen.
room.
Okay.
None of this,
The entire scope of the project has changed.
other than,
Oh, panels
But-
now.
let me, when you say we've added X, that indicates that there's a cost associated with those. Those costs haven't been borne by us, right? That's all still continues to be paid out of the
That's-
court clerk's budget.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
So the cost to us is the project management
Yes.
increased time. Okay.
Cost wise, it only looks like $1,000.
Not as much more than that.
Is it? What's this? This actually says 1,045 difference.
I think that's new since last meeting.
Okay, so this was the first, we've had several checks. This is the recent check. This is the money on top of this.
Which isn't coming out of our budget, so I guess it doesn't really matter to us. And in the past, he's gone out and got his own contractors and stuff. Does he have to use our contractor to set a gig on something?
He's,
Can we hire other contractors for this specific job?
that may be a purchasing question, but I don't know if he has any contractors.
We have a list of contractors that perform specific tasks,
Right?
framers, insulators, tape, bed, paint, stain. Purchasing has assembled all of that, and we use these guys regularly, so they're the ones that are preferred.
Right.
Did I answer correctly for you?
We utilize a quote process, competitive quote process for smaller as-needed projects. Any project can be let in its entirety through the bid process at any time, even if these quotes are in place. So there are still options.
So there are still options. We can use other contractors.
You can take a turnkey project and put it out to bid, even if these quotes are in place. The only thing I wouldn't recommend is you award a project to these vendors and then take it away to go to bid.
You're talking about awarding to a general contractor who would use subs of his own.
That is correct, rather than the county being the general contractor and utilizing these trades.
Right,
As
so
needed.
if we're the GC, if Keith is gonna be the GC and we're hiring tradesmen to do this, is there anything that precludes us from doing that currently? And we're the project manager,
There is not,
okay,
as
so
long
do
as
we
each
have to
project
use the same?
and work is within the bid limit.
If we could run these concurrently on the same track, and it's costing us no money, but we're using separate vendors and not taking the ones off the current jobs, what's the problem there?
The problem is finding those vendors to use.
If we've got 3 or 4 vendors on each, is that the way I'm understanding it? So we have 3 or 4 framers and,
No,
So, we have this list of pre-approved vendors. We have one drywall person, one framing person, we don't have multiple, that's what Miles is asking.
So that is, that
that's
is
correct,
correct.
that's correct.
And the reason we only have one is because we only got one response, or because?
No, not necessarily, but it's very limited responses, generally for contractors who have experience with Oklahoma County. We've been utilizing this quote process for about a couple of years now. And, even though our interest is growing, we're finding new vendors, securing the prices, on an as-needed basis without specific project scopes is a concern that contractors really don't want to commit a linear foot price. Instead, they want to know what the full project scope is and.
In this case, I think that if the court clerk were to contract separately with a general contractor to accomplish the work, he would ultimately use the same subcontractors that we use, because they're the ones that are doing the work. Greg Evans, for example, who does the woodwork here, is a preferred vendor because of the quality that he gives. Painters may come and go, but certainly Greg Evans, James Phillips, Brandon.
Yeah.
So Keith, is it in your experience whenever we have more than one project going, which is what we basically take this on, we've got multiple projects going at the same time? Is it your experience that then it completely takes away from us, or do they have extra crews that they'll actually throw more crews on this?
It's,
Go ahead.
at that point, it's up to the project manager, myself, it's up to me to manage, to juggle and make all the pieces of the puzzle fit.
There is an economy of scale if we have multiple projects. So if we've got framing, for example, on one floor and we're working on 6, it is in our best interest in some cases to keep a contractor busy in several locations. That way they're not taking on other jobs elsewhere and prolonging the work that we need to have.
Right. And that's the reason why I opened this conversation with a statement. We're not objecting to it. We're just letting you know the pros and the cons and exactly what is happening, because there is going to be a ripple effect.
And the ripple effect will, forgive me because I wasn't here.
Mhm.
The ripple effect is what project, with what the court clerk wants to do, what impact will that have on other projects that we have ongoing?
That's correct.
No, what is it?
you know,
Well, the
What
impact
areas are
is,
we talking about?
I may have, my painter, or, he's used Greg Evans. So Greg Evans may be doing the woodwork down on 4 when we need him up on 6, so it may slow
Are
down.
we close to even, sorry, Chris, but are we worried about slowing down 6 when the last I heard, we had just completed demo and there was,
We're ready to begin framing now.
but we're not ready to do finished carpet.
We're not, he's using that as an example.
Okay,
What happens?
I'm just trying to make clear that.
What happens for us, if you'll let me, when we buy the materials, we have to source that. Chris and our office staff procures the material necessary to try and keep the cost down. We have to receive the material, there's the paperwork involved. there's administrative tasks associated with this that isn't seen or understood by anybody but ourselves. So there are additional jobs that we have to perform that take time away from what we do ordinarily. The same folks that are doing the accounting and the processing of paperwork are doing so for every other thing that we do. So there's an administrative factor here. The tradespeople, if you think of what projects we have going on now, we've got some painting work, I think, that's taking place. Phillips, we'll have to schedule him in advance. We're ready to begin framing. And the 6th floor will occupy a big part of his time when you think about the ceiling grid and framing the entire space. I think from what I've seen, the court clerk's space is primarily finish work. Woodwork, paint, stain, those kinds of things. There was a plastic code base that was put down. Don't want that anymore. We want to use a hardwood base, hardwood crown, columns wrapped like this. So basically a duplication of this room to include the window columns.
So is that happening currently in any other place in the county?
Not at this time.
So we're not taking him off of any other job?
You're not taking Greg Evans off of any job.
What about
We have-
framing? These
Framing.
walls appear to have been moved.
I'm sorry.
These walls aren't the same as they currently are they?
Are the walls to be taken out?
There's walls that are moved here, right?
No, there's one wall that,
There was a door made, I think.
he wants to redo all the doors, and one of the walls has paneling on it, he wants the paneling taken off and for it to be rebuilt. But the wall itself will not be moved.
Alright, so framing's not gonna be interrupted, framing's gonna take a while on 6, so. That makes much more sense. I don't think we're gonna have to conflict. I could be wrong, but the project manager will juggle any possible calendar
I'll
conflict.
make it work, and I'm gonna make it work, but then we'll be able to move that.
Also,
Let me ask this, what's the alternative?
Keep more contractors.
Well, right.
or occupy the space as it is.
Occupy the space the way it is, or throw this whole thing out on the street as an entire package. And then hope that no water people.
It doesn't work that way. Anytime we bring a contractor in, we've got to watch them like a hawk.
We still have to oversee it.
But what I'm hearing from both Chris and Keith is that looking at the universal as a whole, there's economy of scale here. Unless we're just going to do a thumbs down, no, you take it as you are, we're not going to recommend letting him do any of this stuff. And it makes sense to do it all at the same time. You guys have expertise to manage it and.
There's another component here, I think, that hasn't been discussed. The court clerk wants the ceiling tile and grid changed, the air conditioning ductwork changed from the diffusers in the light fixtures to drop-in diffusers, and then the lighting changed as well. That requires an asbestos effort that Chris can speak to. So we'll have a great looking building like this, but a ceiling that looks like it was, well, wouldn't have ever been touched.
You can't go to the Black Egg Creek the way we've been doing.
Not in the office space, no.
And
Not in the annex building. You know, we utilize that in ICB, which does not have that fireproofing asbestos.
we want to do what the court clerk wants done.
Yeah.
So don't make any mistake in thinking that we're pushing back in any way. There just are some costs associated with this, you know, not necessarily the monetary cost, but the cost in terms of time and attention.
Okay, so that's the third or fourth time. What will be the project that's directly affected? What's the first project? If it's gonna be a ripple effect, what's the first project?
Well, it's not necessarily the project, it's our day-to-day routine, it's everything that we have going on.
And any other crisis that happens to come up on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So you know, it's hard to determine. I know for a fact the sixth floor will be affected. What he's talking about doing here takes some time to accomplish. And so there will be an overlap of contractors' time and efforts on the sixth floor, on the fourth floor, and anything else that we happen to be tasked with.
Keith, if we're moving on, if we do decide to move on with all these projects, which, I mean, they're already set in motion except for this one, from your point of view, better to manage all at the same time like this and doing your sequencing, and so you're not repetitive, you know, starting at square zero. If we wait and throw this off delayed at the very end, is it best for you to just go and manage it all at the same time?
We don't have any other choice. That's how things come to us.
Yeah.
Giving you a choice right now.
Huh?
Giving you a choice right now, it's sort of what you say. Which way is it better?
We want to please everybody here, and if it makes sense to have Greg Evans down here, and again, this is all dependent on the contractor's schedule as well. We've had it happen where Evans will come down, he'll have to stop here because he's taken another job. They've been waiting on him to come in and do cabinet work in a house or an office or something that was scheduled before. So they fill the pipeline and make adjustments. Every contractor does that. I think the most important thing here is to recognize that nothing happens quick. I'm always asked, we're always asked, when? Everybody knows the answer. We just want to do it once and get it over with. And I wish this fourth floor project had gone that direction. Maybe we didn't ask the questions that we needed to in the beginning, or it's scope creep, or it's a change of direction based on someone's observation. But, you know, we want to do things once and be done. Like this room, like the jury assembly room, like the second floor, once and done.
Good floor.
Chris, I have one question. How much asbestos work are you gonna be doing on shore? Is it 2 procedures, 4 procedures?
On the fourth floor, we're talking about, the area that we're discussing right now.
Yes.
That, me and, Mr. Warren had a discussion, and I explained to him, you know, how things work as far as the asbestos goes, and he agreed to put that off until we actually get to the fourth floor and start doing the HVAC project. Then
So
we
we're not
can-
gonna do this.
So, yeah, that was our last discussion. I kind of emphasized that the best thing to do would be to do it all at once instead of doing it twice.
Okay, so let me try to clarify some things for myself. Keith intimated that there would be work in the ceiling of this particular area. And now what I'm hearing you say is there's going to be work in the ceiling throughout the floor at some point in time.
At some point in time, that might be 2 years down the road.
Okay. So is the space as it's currently set up now?
Yeah.
Has air conditioning,
It has everything.
it has heating.
It has heat.
We're going to be addressing those two things floor-wide later on, which will necessitate you being in the ceiling and doing asbestos work. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. And so I had that discussion with Mr. Warren.
Okay, and he's good with, he understands that, he's fine.
He understands, but I don't know when that's gonna happen. He may get restless and say, no, I want it now, you know? So Keith was just stating that is out, that is there, that is going to happen.
Okay.
Basically,
It's,
finish the work. I can't see that it's impacting us on the sixth floor, right?
it doesn't appear to.
Okay.
My deal would be finish the work and then the ceiling work. Obviously, if we're gonna be in the, doing the fourth floor, then we should do that portion when we're on the floor doing that specific type of work.
Yes.
And your crews are, all right, we're pulling one point. So above the ceiling, when we're there,
Mhm.
finish this, because it doesn't look to me that it's gonna impact us negatively on the sixth floor at this time.
Very good.
Your
That's
motion,
fine.
Joe, is that your motion? Or just your observation? I guess they haven't asked for any.
Right, I don't think they.
It's a possible way to consider the request. Motion to consider. Right, consider.
To Miles' point, we gotta do something to get more than one finished carpenter, more than one drywall person, more than one. And I know you're trying, but
You can approve vendors list, that we just pulled from. Yeah, thank you. I just don't.
You're gonna get that one too.
hello. Is there anything?
That's sort of, what kind of direction are you looking from us, Chris, Keith? What, it sounds to me like we seem to have some sort of agreement about moving forward, except for what we all know is a labor-intensive, high-cost project that's going to the city. Now, I would assume you would go through and change ceiling tiles that are moldy or stained or brown or whatever.
Yes, at that
And you
point.
can make it look decent, which
Yes,
is what he's really looking for.
Yeah, we change everything.
Okay.
Lighting, HVAC, diffusers, we change everything.
But in the meantime, we've got those same types of ceiling tiles that are probably in there, stacked 12-foot tall over at the election board. Are there any of those that are bad? Because I'm sure that's what he's really, like, oh, that one's stained, or that one's got.
Yeah, and we've done that. We've already changed the
Okay.
stains to the tiles and things like that.
Then as it stands, I wouldn't do anything below ceiling tile.
Consider us duly informed.
Make a motion to receive the report.
Okay.
All there.
Aye.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Thank you, Chris, I appreciate it.
I'll sit down.
5, discuss some possible action, of additional water fountains in the courthouse.
What?
Okay, this is also we discussed 2 weeks ago. I guess I'll start from the beginning, since nobody was here.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't have enough copies, because I anticipated you guys would have some, but here's what we're projecting to do. This is where the water fountains live right now,
Have you seen
and
it?
we're moving them over here.
No. Okay.
The,
Put one water fountain on one floor.
yes. Where the water fountains are not in working order right now. And, we need to get them that way. Now, right now, the water running through the elevator shaft is out of code, so we can't restore it in the place that it is right now. So we're proposing to move it over to that empty shaft, which is already a chase. And if you look at the second page, you'll see the type of water fountain we plan on installing. It's a hands-free ADA, bottle filler and water fountain.
Is there something that says we're required to have water fountains?
There it is.
Drinking water, we discussed that with, HR.
That's,
There's a requirement to have potable water available on each floor.
is that a federal requirement? What is that?
That's a ADA requirement, health requirements, communicated from HR.
Joe, you're Mr. ADA, have you ever heard of this one?
But if we have it, it's required to be accessible.
That, right, that.
We all know that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dan can cite the specific requirements.
How have we gotten by without doing it, just,
Well, we've got water, but I wouldn't drink it.
right? Well, I mean, but you've got the caution tape, it's actually not accessible.
That's correct, that's correct.
That's as much pandemic related germs as anything I know.
This one doesn't have the foot pedal on it, does it? So I'm looking at the fixture,
No.
there's no foot pedal. Okay.
It has the side buttons in the front.
Do you understand the location and why?
Yeah, you're in the other, elevator chase, and that's where all the piping and everything is, and you can freely run new piping, I get it, that's easy.
And we would go down to a centralized filtration system. Instead of filtering at each water fountain, we go to a centralized filtration station.
Chris, you know, they make these with the foot pedal available, don't they, on these, or do you know?
I don't know, I can research it. I can see.
What's the cost on
I can't pin down an exact cost, of course, because we have to,
this? Right.
I can't tell what the labor cost is gonna be. We don't know what vendor's gonna be awarded, but I would say somewhere in the area of 35,000-40,000.
So that would be 9 floors.
That's right.
Is that
9
turnkey?
floors, filtration, each fountain,
That's me pricing
Installation.
the water fountains, pricing the copper fixtures, supplies, things like that, and just kind of guesstimating what I think the labor would be.
Including the supply?
Yes.
We actually got a quote from one vendor, and I believe the figure was $36,000. So when Chris said between $35,000 and $40,000, I'm sure that's where this will land.
Well, if that's turnkey to provide water on all those floors, that sounds like nothing. I mean,
Funding currently
We've
available.
not identified a funding source yet. But this would probably be added to the capital list, I'm sure.
we could pull it up capital, our pot, if we haven't spent all of our pot, have we really? And if so,
Are the fountains in this building accessible?
The fountains in this building will be accessible. They'll be changed out and installed when the plumbing project is complete.
Yeah,
That's part.
Yeah.
That's part of the project. And we will supply those fountains with different lines, different potable water sources as well. I'm certain that the solder joints in all the copper supply lines contain lead. So we're eliminating that.
11th floor? Is there,
We did not include the 11th floor.
I didn't know if the area where the jailers were had a water fountain. I couldn't recall.
I think they have a Lazarka.
Okay.
say again,
I believe they have a Lazarka.
So they got that, where you lock up your weapon?
Yeah.
That locker, trailer, so.
And the idea with an attached fixture is it's something that, rather than using an Ozarka dispenser, those items can be picked up, taken from, or
Cody, off my head, I think we spent half of that fund. So if we earmark a not to exceed of 45, Wait, that's 15%. Yeah, I do. So 45. We have, we're still recovered. My motion, I make the motion to go ahead and go forward with this project, the funding of a not to exceed amount of 45,000 to come from the capital projects budget that is controlled by infrastructure and regular meeting. This will be a recommendation of the OCC.
Yes, okay,
So
so
that's
for any clarification.
And that, just one last thing, what are we doing about the old fountains?
We'll make planters out of them. I don't know. If we pull them out, if we pull them out and leave a hole, we'll have a problem trying to replace the marble on the walls. I'd say we just dismantle them, disable them, and leave them in place.
Put appropriate signage so that somebody like me knows about it.
That's right. It's a historical fixture.
You could add a directory on each floor.
Perhaps, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I'd like to go back to the funding source. Are you referencing the unallocated capital to fund this project? The commissioners fund?
I know that he's talking about the infrastructure, as needed
Do
amount.
you know what it's called exactly, or what the number or anything is off the top of your head?
Yes, it was 300,000 is what
Right.
it began with. I think it was the infrastructure as needed.
Yeah.
Amount.
Is that what you're talking about
Yes.
access to?
Yes.
Okay. And we determined that that does not have to go across budget board?
You would have to set up the specific capital
Yes.
line item, but other than that,
Okay.
That's correct.
I'll say the motion is.
Aye. Aye.
It's a- it's a line item, but that would be a budget for the fund. Are you talking about creating a new line item in the?
Isn't that what we all agreed upon, is that we do have to create a new line item, we just don't have to approve
Well, it doesn't have to go through budget board is my understanding.
to create a cost center.
So you're talking about creating a line item under the as needed, the 300,000 as needed, okay. I got
Because
you.
that's,
Yeah.
when we had a discussion yesterday, or I guess last week in BET, that was the
Right,
agreement, I guess. And we're cool with it as long as we created a line item and a process, that Joe says, I mean, I thought they were-
I just want to be clear.
Yeah, we're good on that.
clear as mud.
Yeah.
It's like the water, it is the water we got, right?
All right, 6, discuss the possible action regarding landscaping improvements around courthouse and annex.
A couple of months ago, we discussed about, that we chosen a vendor, to do the ceiling of the courtyards and the caulking, and then there's a little bit of leveling being done in the west courtyard. That's been scheduled. Chris Ponder and I attended a meeting a couple weeks ago, so that's all been scheduled. And it's going to happen depending on weather, last 10 days or so in April or the first weekend in May. So that's moving forward on that front. We discussed it in this committee maybe 3 months ago. And then just a sidebar, OSU County Extension has master gardeners scheduled to come out and plant annuals around the flagpoles and in the urns and in the west courtyard around Lake Liberty and some of those squares out there on May 6th. And I just will note that it's very important, part of the big preparation is that there to be no disturbance of the ceiling for about 24-hour period, maybe it's 4-hour period, I don't remember, Chris, but so look, when you'll see all the caution tape and everything, the most important part, or a very important part is keeping people off that surface because there's no going back once it's been put down. Okay. That's my report.
Motion to receive.
Second, all fair? Yes. Aye. 7, discussion of being possible action, update on tip 2 project, that's the security and new front entrance, annex roof replacement.
Currently negotiating contracts on these security projects with the architects. I'll bring those, to the commissioners, while I get them negotiated. It won't be the 19th, it'll be after that. And still waiting on the roof contractor to come back. He's got his notice to proceed, but he got way behind with the ice storm and hasn't been able to make it back yet.
Further questions? The motion,
So moved. Motion to receive report.
motion say all in favor.
Aye.
8, discuss and move possible action regarding the 2008 budgets.
We are in receipt of our $232,000 on the 5th floor. It's been electronically deposited. I think the budget board will probably put it in the right account, maybe this week's meeting. And then I'll update, I just got the information yesterday, so I haven't updated the budget yet, but I'll update it for the next meeting, showing that receipt.
Probably put it in the right account. You'll make sure it's in the right account.
Yes, I'll make sure they put it in the right account.
All right, any other questions?
Motion to receive report.
Second.
Motion say all in favor.
Aye.
9, discuss and do impossible action regarding ongoing space utilization.
I think as you heard, they're ready to start framing up on the 6th floor. I don't know the exact date and time, but we have a vendor in place. You know when he's coming?
I don't know when he'll be here. We need to start, accumulating materials. We'll take some windows out up on the 6th floor just in time for storm season and begin, shuttling studs and put them in place. One thing I want to make certain of is that floor plan that was approved, I hope doesn't change. So we need to review it now and for the last time, because once we start framing, it costs time and money to go back and do things differently. So I'll have a discussion with Bob Rabbits personally and ask him to sign.
That's exactly what I was gonna recommend. Make your rounds one more time. I mean, there's only 3 of us that you have to make a round with, but just nail it down.
When we did the 2nd floor here, we had 12 renditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more than that, when we were
Which
looking at
slows the
space for
project
D2, D2 on the 1st floor.
We don't wanna slow projects down. We wanna get and go. So.
We're ready to go up there here.
Motion to receive report.
Second.
Oh, well. Go ahead, ask question.
Yeah, and Stace, you, on another item, you mentioned you were ready to go out on the security and social distancing projects. As it relates to space utilization, that conversation occurred, to your knowledge?
I don't understand your question.
I understand your question.
Awesome.
I do know that conversations have been had between the chairman's office and
Yes.
the appropriate individuals. I have not heard any sort of response or anything from the appropriate individuals.
Since we're designing plans, we're going. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Receiving the update? Aye. Thank you. 10, discuss possible action regarding XXX stabilization project.
Pre-work conference with contractors on April 26th. It'll be here in this building if anyone's interested and wants to attend. And he's going to mobilize in the month of May. He's going to kind of take it slow because he's not sure of the rains. But when it hits June, he's going to go at it hard, and he feels confident that he'll finish well within his contract time. So that's positive. The court-appointed appraisers returned their values. We're in possession of those and working through getting that money deposited in the courts. So everything's going pretty good on the project right now.
What's the, once we get the money on deposit with the court, we're basically ready to go.
Well, that gives us right of entry,
Correct.
so
Well, that means you can proceed with the project.
can proceed with the project.
And so, when do you anticipate that will occur?
There's a process, and Gretchen's more familiar with it, where when we pay the money into the court, it'll probably be late this month, Gretchen, late in April, when we do that.
Well, you just need a check cut.
That'll be cut on the
Write a check to the
19th,
court clerk and you hand it to them, so it's not very complicated.
Right.
later this month.
And then you'll finish the stream bank and then you'll go to the roadway.
Yeah, the next bid will be the roadway, probably in the summer.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for your help.
You're welcome.
Well, we've reached out to Oklahoma City,
I have,
and
I haven't got a response yet.
that's what I was wondering. Saying that we're trying to regulate, as they said that they once would, regulate their amount of water that they're shutting down on the wells. Motion to receive report.
Second.
All 30.
Aye.
Aye. 11, discuss possible action regarding the Wilson Boulevard Bridge project. I think I had requested some verbiage change in that on describing that item. That's all right. Stacy, do you have anything?
Design is underway.
Yep. And then on the easements portion, we're working with their attorney. They had some language changes, and then I found a couple things, so I think hopefully we'll be close on that. Okay? No other questions? You received that update?
So I'll make a motion,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 12, discuss touch action regarding the capital improvements list.
No changes.
We'll need to add, the, water fountains to this list, looks like. Is that right?
The OG and E vault, aren't we finished with that?
The work is done in the vault, and there was a little bit of damage to the overhead door area, and we're working through that so we can final this out and close it.
JJC.
Okay.
Motion to receive report.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thirteen, discuss the possible action to consider request for U.S. Air Force for county land south by ordering up to Douglas 2-year.
I passed out to you the final letter from the bond council. We had a draft letter a few meetings ago. This is their final letter. They just basically made corrections to typos, that sort of thing. The biggest difference that I saw in the letter, and it was in the draft as well, is the getting the reversionary clause, should the Air Force not utilize the land. And they're drafting that right now.
So are you at the point where you need a recommendation from us to the FCC to move forward? Or do you know
Yes,
there's a
and
revision?
there's, this completes all the pieces that you've asked for.
I would so move then, recommend the BOCC for that project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, citizens' participation, board comments.
None.
New business? Adjourned.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'd like to call the meeting of the PBA Advisory Committee to order. Those being properly posted on April the 8th. Item 1 is not necessary, since we are present. Item 2 is discussion of possible action for the minutes of March 3rd. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
3, discussion of possible action to adjust PBA rental rates using the consumer pricing index. Mr. Monroe.
We have this discussion every year at this time as to whether or not to make any adjustments to the rental rates for tenants. Michael Taylor had asked for a rent roll.
Make a motion to receive this document.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The consumer price index change, as reported from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, is 1.4%. What you'll see is a current monthly rental by tenant. The next column is a monthly figure that would be calculated based on that 1.4%. A new monthly rental figure. And I believe the way this was originally set up, it was either an increase or a change in the consumer price index, which would determine any change in rental, or market prices or values, or the discretion of the PBA board. The current rental rate per square foot across the board is $13.25.
So this is typically what's done every time?
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, really the rental rate increase historically hasn't ever generally been above 2%. So it's been nominal for as long as I can recall.
I believe that we would recommend the PBA that we increase rental rates for PBA properties at the CPI of 1.4% on a monthly basis.
Sure.
A second.
Need you to just take on
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
What would be the?
We didn't move ACOGs up when we moved everybody else up last year.
I believe that's correct. We were finishing up
We didn't want to do the increase in their rate to standardize with everybody else until we had their roofing and their HVAC and all that stuff replaced. We were gonna address that the next year, so.
if you want to treat them a little differently based on the improvements to the building, if you, for example, want to begin to recapture those costs using some amortization-like approach. That's something that can be done. My perspective on an effort like that is you would take the life expectancy of the improvements made, build that into the lease over the term of the lifetime or the life expectancy again of the improvement. So in other words, if you have a 20-year roof or a 25-year roof, you'd like to possibly recapture that cost over the lifetime of the improvement.
So we'll do that then when we replace ICD. We would take some action.
That's an approach.
Well, with regard to that property on Lincoln, would we not also then do the same for the auction?
I think so, yes. In order to be consistent. At the very least, I think the consumer price index change should be used, and if you want to wait to begin a recapture of the improvements until next year, you can do it that way as well.
Have you developed the schedule that would allow us to set the rates for the Lincoln property?
Not formally, but I can.
So let me withdraw my motion. Whoever seconded it, be so kind as to do that. I would move that with regard to the ICD properties, we recommended a PBA that they increase the rental at the CPI of 1.4%. And then the rest of the other properties.
I'll second that motion.
Does that include, if you look at the bottom of the page, there's the election board, ACOG.
We would address the other properties in the future.
Okay.
Those three. Okay. All there?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Probably motion to receive, I'll make a motion to receive this as
Right.
well.
I'll second that.
You already did that.
You did? Okay. Anything else, Keith?
Nothing on that item.
Okay, 4, discussion possible action to review and adopt after-hours policy for the Metro Park.
I don't have that document with me. If you have it, it's great. We discussed this last time,
I think they,
and I can't remember what we decided.
I think they moved to approve them, but there were a lot of things on here that I know that were addressing.
There was one discussion, I think, some point that I can't remember, and I think it had to do with how a ticket was collected, the machinery used after hours, but then once understood, I think the document was good. Anybody? I can tell you that it is a system that works. And this document allows everyone to understand exactly what the procedures are.
At the last meeting, it was recommended to PBA for approval, and the motion carried.
Okay. So we can strike this?
Charles, second motion.
Yeah, I'll move to strike it.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
5 is discussing possible action to discuss city of Oklahoma City administrative project.
These were approved at the last meeting too. I'll move to strike this.
And nothing new has been presented, so.
Okay.
I'll second the motion. All in favor? Strike.
Aye.
Aye. 6, discussion review and possible action regarding emergency management space at the property.
Nothing.
Motion received.
7, discussion of the possible action related to the ICD hospital project.
We're proceeding as directed. And we should, have a decision made this week is my hope.
Get that decision on what needs to occur, needs to happen sooner than the next meeting of this group. We can have a special.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, just let us know. Okay. All right, motion received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
8 is discussion of being possible action related to repair and replacement of the roof in the HVAC at Lincoln property.
Still trying to finish up the paperwork on that one.
Just waiting for his final inspection, if there was,
Trying to get finished up with Guernsey, and accounting with Metropolitan, and roofing contractor for the district.
motion received for.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9, discuss possible action regarding update on projects and properties under the PBA.
Nothing new in Metro, nothing new at Lincoln. The ICB, we have a paper mache problem in the sewer system. We've had to have Oklahoma City out a number of times to try to work towards some solution there. Apparently there's a lot of paper towels that wind up for one reason or another in the sewer system, and we'll try and solve that issue as soon as we know exactly what the cause is.
Can we just put badge readers along the restrooms?
We can-
Everybody that's a tenant a badge?
We can do that, but I don't know how you would, how the public would be handled there. That might be a separate issue to consider. If you badged all of them and the public did not have access, they'd have to request that from some card holder. Or simply dedicate one bathroom as a public bathroom. I'm not sure if that works. I'd have to check with Dan and see what we could and couldn't do there.
Maybe start with some larger trash.
We'll try anything.
You also had said, when you came and told me about these issues, something about a piece of equipment we could get.
When Oklahoma City comes out, and within the past 45 days or so, they've been out here 3 times. There is a flow jet. It's a giant power washer that they insert into the sewer main to push any kind of a blockage out of the way. We've not been charged by Oklahoma City to date. I don't know that they would charge us, but like anything else, they'll at some point become a little tired and exasperated coming out here to do this if we don't try and help ourselves in some way. So we'll start with the bigger trash can.
Is there a grinder that you can put on there similar to the way we have it at the jail? Smaller version, much smaller version.
Sure.
Well, that's what I was talking about. I was gonna say about the monster. Is there, I mean, sure that there is, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I've not looked into that. Yeah. Maybe we look at doing something with the paper mache
Yeah, we,
object card. I think it ultimately will require using the sewer in a way in which it was designed to operate. It's an office building, it's not a jail.
Agreed. Do we need to set somebody at a desk out there? I mean, you go over to Oklahoma Tower and they got this.
So gone from,
Yeah.
gone from nothing to
Concierge service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hotel.
I know.
Can we develop a logo so we can print shirts and jackets?
Yeah, we go.
Can you see them?
Or we just put security in the building and everyone has to.
You know, there's an idea. We could raise the rental rates to cover security as provided by the sheriff's department.
That was tried once before.
It might be a good time to try it again.
We have a new sheriff, so.
And by the way, as far as Metro 1 and 2 is concerned, we put together our budgets for Metro 1 and 2, and then last week received notification that the sheriff's deputy will cost us more again this fiscal year.
Did you not ask for a raise for him?
I didn't ask for a raise for him, he's a sheriff's employee. We contract with the sheriff.
Okay.
But I can certainly ask the sheriff if he would provide a deputy in the ICD lobby.
Oh, sure. And it's gonna be about the cost of the,
Sure.
you know.
That's something that you could address with the rents though, too. I mean,
Yeah,
security and everything.
Yeah, we try.
They-
But we can try again. And I'm certainly more than happy to ask the question of the sheriff and what it would cost. Well, not when you have to fix it.
All right.
Kraus, we're ready for the generator, the transfer switch has been set, all the wiring, conduit, and everything's ready to go out there. I'm told that delivery will probably be sometime next month, so supply chains are still back up.
And this is.
Ready in May. Also, there was an effort to eliminate masks. The BOCC eliminated masks for the annex and the courthouse. I don't know if you want to do the same with PBA properties.
The signs are already down in ICD and Metro 1.
Well, and it wasn't a mandate either, so. It was just a
That's
strong.
not infrastructure.
Strong.
It's-
This PBA.
We never did a mandate.
So I think that they could address that at the regular PBA meeting.
Okay. That's it.
Anything else for Keith?
Motion received report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
10, I believe we can strike. Is there a motion to strike item 10?
So,
Second.
Did we cover item 6? Just no report was.
no report.
Okay, great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Says participation. Board comments.
None.
New business? Anybody? Adjourn.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
I have coffee cups.
Zero.